All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. It's going to be Love My Gut. So I'm going to be teaching you how to really restore great gut health. I know I did this workshop for a big group of our patients last week, and everybody really enjoyed it. And I know that I have several patients that were unable to attend. So I wanted to get this recorded and to send it out to have you guys learn how to really get your gut healthier and how to start to get your body feeling better. And so we're just going to start diving right into all things gut health. And your gut is very much connected to the rest of your body. We're going to really be diving into how that does apply to you. So where we're at today with our health right now, we are not healthy as Americans. We have one doctor for every 8 patients. That is the highest doctor-patient ratio in the world. And yet 75% of the people over the age of 40 have a chronic disease. America is not healthy. One study found that 74% of Americans are living with gastrointestinal issues like bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and over 650,000 people die of heart disease every year. Cancer is affecting about 1 in 3 Americans in their lifetime will get a cancer diagnosis. And depression, anxiety, suicide, these things are at all-time highs. And the number one cause of death for children right now, right below right below accidents, is cancer. And that's the number one killer for children. And that didn't used to be the case back in 1950. So we just really can't keep going on this destructive road. And so I'm glad that you're tuning into this webinar to really learn how to start to get to the root cause of the problems and get healthier. But a big problem is that it's the duct tape mentality. Is like the duct tape is not the long-term fix. We look at something like a protein pump inhibitor, which are the medications that people get on for acid reflux. And these medications, they've been found to increase the risk of chronic kidney disease and dementia. But right now, about 15 million Americans are taking these PPIs, and really a lot of times they are on them forever, and that's never really supposed to be the case with these medications. But and they do cause a lot of long-term problems. Nutrient deficiencies, being on acid reflux meds, can decrease your calcium and vitamin B12 and magnesium storages. It can affect osteoporosis and increase your risk of heart disease and increase your risk of Alzheimer's disease. One study found that when people take these acid reflux drugs long-term, their risk of developing some type of dementia rose by over 40%. That is a huge number. And then increases the risk of kidney disease by 20 to 50%. And the problem is that this doesn't fix the cause of the issue. All these medications are just kind of masking the problem, but meanwhile, the real issue is not being addressed. So what I'm going to dive into today, not just for reflux or, digestive, but just really the overall body, is how to get to the root of the problem and really get the body functioning better by fixing that and getting it truly healthier. So, was Hippocrates correct? He said all disease begins in the gut, and really there is a ton of truth to that. So even if you may be listening and you may think, well, I don't have constipation, I don't have diarrhea, I don't have acid reflux, my gut's probably pretty healthy. There's a lot more to it than that. So autoimmune diseases, a lot of those are related to unhealthy gut, and that can drive a lot of autoimmune reactions in the body. Brain disorders, cognitive decline, brain fog, how well your brain works is very much connected to the gut, and I'm going to be getting into that here in a little bit. Cancer, your immune system and your gut are very much so connected. So if your gut's not healthy, that's going to raise your risk of developing cancer. And then learning disabilities, mood disorders, anxiety, depression, that's affected a lot. If you just chronically feel tired or your joints hurt, That is a sign of inflammation in the gut and probably throughout the body that's driving a lot of those problems. And then infertility, pregnancy complications, asthma, allergy, sensitivity to foods, ability to lose or gain weight. So really virtually everything does connect back to the gut. So when we do look at our gut, it's not just a hollow tube. It's way more than that, right? So there are hollow organs when we look at kind of how the gut works here, but there are solid organs like your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas, and the food just doesn't, pass through. This is where all your absorption of critical vitamins and minerals and nutrients that every cell in your body needs all is connected to the digestive tract. So if your gut is suffering and it's not healthy, that's going to even affect your body's ability to absorb the food that you're eating. So a lot of people may be eating healthier and taking certain supplements, and that's great. But yet if their gut's not fully healthy, then they're really not absorbing the amount of vitamins and minerals and nutrients that they should be, because we got to get this gut healthier. So there is this big thing called your gut-brain connection. So when we look at this, they call it the gut-brain axis, and it's the communication between your central nervous system and your gut. So your gut and your brain are connected physically, but they're also connected biochemically in many ways. So your brain contains about 100 billion neurons, which communicate in our body with our behavior and how the body functions. But our gut contains about 500 million neurons. Is that the gut is lined with a thin layer of two cells. It's called your enteric nervous system. And actually in our gut, we produce a lot of our neurotransmitters that are responsible for how good we feel. So the way that this works is the brain that sends signals to your gut down your vagal nerve, your vagus nerve. And then your gut will send signals back to your brain right up through that vagal nerve. So with this, it's kind of interesting that for every one signal your brain sends to your bowels, your gut and your bowels will send about 9 signals back up to your brain. And this is very interesting. It's like 50% of your dopamine. Dopamine is like the feel-good neurotransmitter. And 50% of that is actually produced in your gut, and it travels back up this vagal nerve to your brain. Over 95% of the serotonin in your body is produced in your digestive tract, and it actually travels back up to the brain. So a lot of things like anxiety, depression, just chronic fatigue, feeling tired all the time, this very much connects to the fact that the gut's not healthy. It's not producing these neurotransmitters, and then the brain's just not getting these feel-good signals traveling up through there. So when it comes to really even changing the mood and how you feel, we got to work with this. And what I love is, patients in our office, we work with these systems. We're going to work on today, like getting the gut healthier and protocols to do that. And then we work with your spine and your nervous system. So when we combine these together and we're healing the gut and we're getting the nervous system balanced, then man, you'll see great changes because you're really starting to get to the root cause of the problems. So gut and immune system, 70% of our immune system is housed in the gut, like 70%. That's a big majority. So when we think about wanting to have strong immune systems that can fight off viruses and bacteria and cancer, like we got to get the gut healthier. So when it comes to your gut, there's this thing called your microbiome. Most people, I think, are becoming familiar with that word, but your microbiome is just this combination of all these virus, bacteria, fungi that actually live in and on our body. And these, types of, microbiome type cells, these bacteria, they actually can outnumber our human cells by about 10 to 1. So, there are millions and millions and trillions of these bacteria, of these different types of virus and fungus that live on our skin, in our digestive tract, in our mouth. They live in all parts of the body. And it's very important that our body is in balance with these good bacteria. We need good bacteria. That's kind of a misconception, is that people sometimes sometimes things they hear about bacteria is, well, we have a bad bacteria and I need to take an antibiotic, or a bacterial overgrowth like yeast, or just a nasty bug and I got to get rid of it. Well, the reality is like there are good bacteria that our body needs. And what happens is that this good bacteria can become damaged. And then that allows for the more opportunistic bad bacteria to more overgrow and kind of take hold in our bodies. And it needs to be balanced. That's important, is we want to have a balance. We need to have good. There's going to be some bad, but it needs to be in a happy balance. And then that helps to create health and healing in the body. So what happens is that this bacteria can become out of balance, and we get what is called dysbiosis, which is just an unbalance of these gut microbes and of this microbiome in our body. So in order for our digestive tract to perform effectively, it's very important that we have as much good bacteria as we can and as little harmful bacteria as possible. So this dysbiosis, this is being studied a lot, and it's being linked to major other health issues in the body. So one is, and it's a dysbiosis equals disruption. It's a disruption of these good bacteria in the body. So the gut microbiota could serve as a marker associated with colorectal cancer in patients and survival. So it's just what we talked about, like the gut is connected to the immune system. If these bacteria are out of balance, your body's more likely to develop certain diseases. This study actually showed how gut dysbiosis is being linked to causing hypertension. And you think like, well, how is the gut and the bacteria, like how is that connected to my heart and high blood pressure? But it is. Everything interconnects in the body. So we do really want to avoid these microbiome destroyers, like the things that actually wipe out a lot of the good bacteria and allow for more of these bad bacteria to start to take hold and overgrow in our body. So one big thing is antibiotics. When you break down the word antibiotics, it means against, and biotics means life. So antibiotics means against life. And they will destroy both good and bad bacteria, which can lead to dysbiosis and then these opportunistic infections. And long-term, they can affect your microbiome. So even if as a child you had a history of ear infections and you got put on multiple antibiotics and you're an adult now, that can have altered your microbiome even to this day. And it's the same thing if maybe you had to be on antibiotics because you had a tooth pulled out, or you had some type of a surgery or something and you had to be on an antibiotic. That can be the start of causing this dysbiosis in your body. And but here's some more unknown things, like uncommon things that you may not think of that can cause dysbiosis. And one is sugar and artificial sweeteners, things like Splenda and NutraSweet, your pink and yellow and blue packets. Those artificial sweeteners are very damaging to the good bacteria in your gut. So you really do want to work on cutting out the artificial sweeteners, but even too much sugar will start to cause an overgrowth of the bad bacteria in our body and damage the good bacteria. So, and the thing is that when you do have too much of these unwanted bacteria, things like yeast and certain type of fungus, and they do thrive on sugar. So it will give you more sugar cravings but you'll see, things like brain fog, increased risk of obesity, many other things. Those are downstream problems because we're having too much sugar in our diet, or we're using these damaging things like artificial sweeteners. Non-organic or GMO type foods. They're notorious for having high levels of glyphosate. And glyphosate is it's an extremely problematic pesticide with a long list of adverse reactions in your body. And it really damages the microbiome. It's been shown, glyphosate has been shown to damage your gut lining, to cause a loosening in the gap junctions between your cells, which leads to things like leaky gut. And then it can contribute to the overgrowth of bad bacteria. So when you're buying foods that are not organic, or foods that are GMO, then they do have a higher likelihood that they've been sprayed with glyphosate, and then that's going to cause problems in your body. And then another overlooked area is your water supply. A lot of our tap water contains problematic chemicals like chlorine and fluoride and aluminum. And these have been shown to be very damaging to the gut bacteria. Even chlorine, like swimming in a pool throughout the summer that has chlorine, that's going to cause some degree of damage to your microbiome and these good bacteria that are found in our gut. So what can start to happen in a lot of people is this progression of what's called leaky gut. And what happens is that all these things that I've just kind of talked about, stress, toxins, food particles, bad, harmful foods, drugs, prescription drugs that are damaging, or things like Advil, Tylenol, aspirin, these are damaging to the gut lining. They all create this kind of level of inflammation around our gut. And then the more that these things keep happening in this environment of our body just kind of keeps stressing the gut and causing this inflammation, then you see on this picture where the cells should be real tight together. And when they're real tight together, then food and bacteria and undigested food particles and waste from your bowels, feces, that stays in your gut down here, and it passes through and out of the body. But what happens is that when we do have these exposure to antibiotics or toxins from our food supply, through artificial sweeteners and sugar, these gap junctions actually start to open up. And then when they start to open up, then things that were always meant to stay in your gut and in your bowel start to leak through and then get out into your bloodstream. And that is not good, because what happens is that when there are undigested food particles that are leaking out through, when there's waste leaking out through, then the body starts to react to that. And then it causes just systemic inflammation where the body is reacting to these things that should have been meant to stay in the gut, but now they're leaking out to other parts of the body. And then the body can also start to really fight and react to that. And then this starts to cause, like you see at the bottom of the chart there, autoimmune disorders, where the body is starting to attack itself because of this kind of progression of what's called leaky gut. The gut's not healthy. There's massive inflammation, things that are meant to always have been stayed within the gut lining and the gut, digestive tract, the GI tubes, and now they're leaking out to the body. So we got to work on healing these things. And these are symptoms of poor gut health. So these are kind of your warning signs that things aren't well. And one is upset stomach. If you just feel like my stomach doesn't feel good, I just feel sore, wake up, my stomach's sore, it gets tender throughout the day. Unintentional weight changes, up or down, that's a sign of unhealthy gut. Sleep problems, if you have trouble going to sleep at night, or staying asleep, or you wake up at 2, 3 in the morning all the time, those are signs of underlying gut problems. Fatigue, if you feel tired, you just don't have the energy that you should, then that's a sign that probably your gut's not well. A lot of your energy is produced in your gut, and if your gut's not healthy, you're not going to have energy. If you have food sensitivities, where if you feel like, man, I just can't eat certain things that I used to be able to eat, they just affect me, well, that's signs that your gut's telling you it's not handling those foods very well. Bloating, skin problems, and digestive issues. Skin problems, especially eczema, psoriasis, those are all signs that your gut's not well on the inside. So your skin kind of reflects the health of your overall gut. So how do we heal the gut? We're going to go through doing this through the 5 essentials. Those of you guys that are watching this that are patients in our office you understand the 5 essentials. These are the aspects that we use to heal patients. And we work on the spine and getting the spine healthy and allowing the brain and the body to be in balance through proper communication of your nervous system. We work with nutrition, putting the right foods in and eliminating foods that really drive a lot of inflammation, but how to understand like what foods help to heal our body and what foods cause disease. We work on mindset, like how to have a mindset to really put your health as a priority, to know that you can heal, that, you don't have to live with issues lifelong, but it does take having a responsibility for your health, taking action. And before I go into the rest of the webinar, that's a good point, is like, we do have to take action. It's not just getting good information that changes our health. It's like taking what you learn here today and then making a list of like 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're going to actually implement and you're going to change to move the needle forward and getting you healthier and actually, making changes. As it's about taking action and making changes, not just about getting information. And then minimize our exposure to toxins and to get our bodies moving, to get oxygen, to get exercise. But just a note on mindset, this is pretty awesome, is our thoughts actually affect the health of our body, and they do affect even the health of your gut. So they've done studies. They did this big study on college students where they had college students write like a gratitude journal, and they write down the things they were thankful for and the things that brought them happiness and joy, and just focusing on what they're thankful for and the good things. And then they had another group that they kind of had them focus on all the things that were bad and the things that were going wrong. And actually what they found is that when we think these good thoughts of gratitude and thankfulness, it actually affects your gut microbiome. So good bacteria thrive with these good mental impulses. But when you have more of these negative mental impulses, thoughts of fear and worry and ungratefulness, is that actually feeds a lot of these bad bacteria. They like that type of mental impulse. So I think that's really fascinating. It's like how much our thoughts do connect back to our health of our whole body. So check your mindset. Are you kind of stewing in these bad thoughts, or do we need to switch them to more thoughts of gratitude and thankfulness and being focused on the good things with that? So here's our 4 R's. These are going to be the steps that we need to heal the leaky gut, the dysbiosis, and all these other gut related issues. So first R is we want to remove foods and factors that damage the gut. So we're going to go into this, but step number 1, remove the foods and the factors that damage your gut. Number 2 R is you got to replace these damaging foods with healing foods. As you follow like an anti-inflammatory, healthy gut diet. So we got to remove the bad, replace it with good. Step number 3 is we repair the gut with specific leaky gut or gut healing supplements. We're going to dive into that more, but we got to repair a lot of this damage because unfortunately, a lot of us have gut problems, and they started when we were young. Like even if you've been on the road to being healthier for a few years now, well, you still have damage from the first 20, 30, 40 years of your life where you were not eating good and you were not taking care of your body. So a lot of it is sometimes repairing some of these years of damage. We got to dive into doing that. And then 4 is rebalance your microbiome with probiotics and these beneficial bacteria. This is key because that's a major part that makes up the intestinal barrier that helps to, keep the gut in balance and helps to digest food and absorb nutrients and allowing that leaky gut to start to heal. So step number 1 is that remove, I'm going to go through the top 5 foods. These are the real bad ones to focus on. So food number 1 on the list is artificial sweeteners and sugar. And I kind of already hit on that a little bit, but artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame and saccharin, they change your gut bacteria balance, and they deplete the good bacteria, and then it tends to favor harmful bacteria growth. And this can lead to an onslaught of digestive issues, and then it can even affect your insulin production. And so we got to really avoid sugar, especially, refined sugars and artificial sweeteners for sure. They got to go. You can't have them. So a good replacement is you want to replace by using things like stevia, which is more as a plant-based sweetener. But caution on stevia is you do want it to be pure stevia. You don't want the fillers. So a lot of the stevia has fillers added to it. So when you flip over and you read your stevia, it's like it should just say stevia or stevia extract and nothing else. You don't want the other fillers in there. Dates are a great sweetener. They have lots of vitamins and minerals and nutrients and fiber. And so using dates or date syrup, that's a good alternative to sugar. Monk fruit is another plant-based sweetener that doesn't, create damage to the to our blood sugar. But even you got to be cautious of things like monk fruit. A lot of that stuff also has fillers added to it. Using a little bit of raw honey and maple syrup and coconut sugar. These things are all better for the body than just plain sugar. They're more of a natural source. They do have some beneficial things with them, but even that, we have to be careful. I know personally, my struggle is that, yes, I use the natural sugars and the honey and the maple syrup, but I kind of tend to go overboard. It's like I'm making healthy desserts with all this, but it's still sugar. So ultimately, we do have to kind of work on trying to cut that sweet tooth, try to avoid a lot of the sugar altogether. But if you're going to make something, try to make sure that these are the sweeteners that are being used, and you're not using things like just plain sugar, or definitely not the artificial sweeteners. Number 2 on the list is gluten. So gluten is kind of the glue that holds all these grains and breads and things together. But it's been found to be a driving factor for a lot of gut issues, especially creating that leaky gut. And a lot of the grains, they have been sprayed with glyphosate. So a lot of that chemical that's been on the grain it's been sprayed with, that's also damaging the gut. So gluten is found in grains like wheat, rye, barley, and most people consume it daily. But it's been shown to really cause that hyperpermeability or drive a lot of the leaky gut issues. So avoiding gluten is an important thing. So what I recommend is you remove these problematic gut foods, which could be the grains. So you really try to remove wheat, rice, oats, corn, and barley. And a lot of people do better when they go grain-free. They really feel better, their energy's better, their gut's better. So that's kind of where we tend to stay for the most part, is more of a grain-free diet. And then you can replace it though. You replace your grains with grain-free options like almond flour, coconut flour, cassava flour. You can use organic sprouted grains. That's a better alternative. When they sprout the grain, it actually helps to break down some of these things that are harder on your gut, and it makes you able to easily digest it. So using sprouted grains, like Ezekiel type breads, or using ancient type grains like einkorn wheat, and making your own bread from that would be a better option. And then I like this little bread. I put a picture up there. It's called Base Culture, and it's a nut and seed bread, but it's grain free. And so that's what sometimes I'll use for toast in the morning, or making sandwiches out of it with that too. So, but these can be problematic, and you may need to, for a period of time, go grain free, cut out the grains. And it's not just in bread, but this is a lot of what's in cereals and pastas, and you'll find a lot of these things in packaged foods too. So another big one is conventional meats. So conventional meats, any type of meat, if it's raised conventionally, tends to have higher levels of antibiotics, which we know are really bad for the gut, hormones, which can be damaging to our gut as well. There's an increased level of toxicity in these meats because they're eating most of these conventional raised meats. Their animals are on a feedlot. They're eating nothing but grains that have been sprayed with pesticides and chemicals, and then they're eating that, and all that toxicity gets up in their body and in their meat, and then we're eating that meat. So we're going to work on cutting out that conventional meats and replacing them with good options, which would be grass-fed organic when it comes to your beef, grass-fed organic. When it comes to chicken, you want to make sure you're buying organic, free-range or pasture-raised chicken and eggs. And then when it comes to your fish, making sure that they are wild-caught fish, not farm-raised. So same thing, farm-raised fish, they're in a condensed pond or body of water. They're trapped in there. They're raising hundreds and thousands of fish in there, and they're just feeding them. A lot of times they'll feed them food that has dye in it that actually makes the meat look like salmon, though it's really not salmon. So you do want to buy wild caught fish, and then organic type meats. It's an important area to clean up. I just with experience with patients is like, this is an area that tends to be a problem, is that they don't want to sometimes clean up their meat. They want to still just buy what they're used to, but it's right beside the other stuff at the store. You just go a little bit further and you'll find the grass-fed meat and you'll find the better stuff. So it's not hard. You just got to get out of the habit of buying what you've been used to and just buy the better quality stuff. So another one is dairy. So you want to avoid the antibiotics and the hormones and the steroids that are found in most conventional dairy. So that includes milk, yogurt, cheese, all conventional dairy. I really warn you to at least get away from conventional dairy, and you want to replace it with going to more of the organic grass-fed dairy. And same goes true for yogurt and cheese. Get the organic grass-fed. Number one, when it's organic, you're not going to get the antibiotics and the hormones and the steroids that can cause problems. Number two is that when it's grass-fed, it has higher amounts of beneficial good fats for the body. It's better for our body. And then you do want it to be full fat dairy. So if you look at that picture there, that's there's one brand that you can find at Kroger, but it's grass milk. So it's grass-fed whole milk. It's not low fat or skim milk. And then their cheese, that's their raw, organic, grass-fed milk cheese. Same thing with their yogurts. So ideally, you could buy dairy from a farmer and you're getting raw, grass-fed, organic dairy. And if you can, that's great. We have some connections in the office that we can help you with that. But if not, these are your next best options. Or you may want to just avoid dairy altogether. Some people, even the healthier dairy, their body just doesn't agree with. Their gut just can't quite handle that. So it's easy to where you just use alternatives like coconut milk or almond milk. Not soy though. You want to avoid the soy milk for sure, but unsweetened coconut milk, unsweetened almond milk, those are good alternatives to dairy as well. And then we want to avoid the damaged and altered fats. So these are going to come from your your refined oils. That most of these things in this picture here, they're typically fried in like a corn oil, a soybean oil, a cottonseed oil, or canola oil. And all of these oils are very damaging to the gut. They drive massive inflammation in the body, and they're some of the worst things that we can eat. So a lot of your chips, a lot of your popcorn, French fries, all these things are going to be fried and have these bad fats in them. So when it comes to fat, I have a few rules, and one is you want to, with your oils, is that you want to be cooking with either extra virgin coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil, preferably one that's cold pressed and hasn't been sitting on the shelf for years, or you use organic butter or things like avocado oil. But you do not want to be using canola oil. You do not want to be using things like margarine or fake type butters. And then you really want to eliminate or avoid as much of these type of foods as possible. The fast food for a lot of people, it does have to go. I've been encouraging a few of my patients is that they had some blood tests done and their triglycerides were high. And I told them, like, well, what's the deal? Like, what's, and they added it up, and they, like, four nights a week, they were stopping and getting fast food. And I'm like, you can't combat that. Like, it doesn't matter if you eat good the rest of the week. That's way too much of that crap. So I said, you just got to start to plan better. You got to shop better. You got to have stuff ready to go at home. And then you just got to get out of that habit of pulling in there and getting that food. And since they've committed to that, man, they feel way better. Their energy's better, their mood's better, and seeing changes on their blood work as well too. And then the last one is alcohol. So alcohol by nature is toxic. Just 2 ounces can destroy your brain cells, and it's one of the most dangerous drugs in the world. And it has some of the most dangerous effects on our body. So, and alcohol has been shown to be especially damaging to our gut and to that microbiome, and causing a lot of leaky gut stuff. So, for some people, you may need to really go on a type of fast away from alcohol, and working on trying to make sure that that's not a driving factor for your gut issues as well. And then, so we're going to get into the healthy gut diet. And these are going to be a few of our examples of our Max Living nutrition plans. So those of you that are watching this that are patients in our office, you have all the resources for the Max Living nutrition plans. Those are in your book. They're in your nutrition guides. And so these are the plans I'm going to be talking about. And the Max Living nutrition plans, kind of the main one for gut health, I'm just going to sum it up, is that we want to be eating foods that are grown in nature, that can be eaten without being processed in any way whatsoever. So natural foods, these living foods, have these living enzymes in them that are amazing for our body. If you think about an apple, if we cut an apple in half, and it wouldn't take too long before it starts to oxidize, it starts to turn brown, all these enzymes are kind of breaking it down because it's a living food, and it will rot and die, right? But we contrast that with like a Twinkie. If you cut a Twinkie in half, what does it do? It just sits there, like being half a Twinkie. It doesn't do anything. It could stay that way for 12 years. And it's because it's a dead food. And a good kind of way to think about it is that if we eat foods that won't rot, then you will rot. And if you eat foods that will rot, you will live, right? Is that we want to eat foods that are alive, these living foods. We don't want to eat foods that could be, on a shelf for years and they never rot. Man, when we eat that stuff, our body will rot because it's not real food. And so you may use the excuse that you think, well, like, I just don't have time to cook food, or I don't like to buy a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits because, they don't last very long. Well, you got to commit the time, and you put the time into prepping food and making your meals and buying these healthy foods. You're going to give yourself time later on in life. But if you don't change and you keep eating these quick convenience, these dead foods, you're going to be robbing yourself of years of life and dying early or being miserable with a lot of these chronic diseases. So, it's worth putting the time in. And one thing I shared at the workshop, I'll share it too, because it was very interesting. But when you study some of these, tribes around the world that they've not really been influenced by Western culture. One of them is the Hunza Indians in the Himalayan mountain area. And these people eat off the land. They don't eat anything packaged or processed. And their women can actually bear children up to 90 years of age. They can have a healthy child. And because they have vitality. And kind of that's the potential of our human body. Not that we'd want to have kids when we're 90, but yeah, their bodies are still full of life at 90 years old. Their men can live up to 120 years plus and have a clear mind. And yet we see people that could hardly remember their name or their phone number at the age of 50. So our body has this amazing potential for health. We just have to start, a lot of times changing what we're doing and taking better care of it. So here's the 3 principles for the Max Living Nutrition Plan, kind of the core plan, which is kind of the foundational plan to switch to. Number 1 is eat food by God and avoid food by science, right? Eat food that comes from the earth or from a tree, food that's not processed at all, your fruits, your vegetables, nuts, seeds, and then, avoiding a lot of this food by science, your packaged food, your processed food, foods that comes out of a bag or a box, like you want to avoid a lot of those things. Skip sugar and the sugar alternatives. You want to get that stuff out of your diet. And then you want to work on counting toxicants and not calories. You want to work on flipping over your food label and actually reading it. And if you are seeing a lot of ingredients that doesn't sound like, real food, that sounds more like a chemical or an additive, then you want to avoid those and not be so much focused on calories, but counting the actual ingredients and making sure they're real food and not, more of a chemical or a, man altered food. So we want to eat plenty of healthy fats in our diet. These healthy fats can be things like wild caught salmon, avocados, walnuts, any type of nuts, almonds, olives, things like chia seeds and flax seeds, and healthy fats too would be things like your full fat, grass-fed beef or dairy. These are going to be your good sources of healthy fats. And then you want to make sure you're doing the full fat organic dairies, that you're going to the naturally raised animal proteins. These are going to be your organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised. If you're going to eat the grains, make sure they're at least whole sprouted grains like Ezekiel or the ancient grains as well. And then you're eating a variety of fruits and vegetables. Like that's the staple, variety of fruits and vegetables. And then if you're going to eat carbohydrates, make sure you're eating more of the plant-based carbohydrates too. So these are kind of your big switches there. And then advanced plans. So you may be familiar with this, you may not. Our advanced plan kind of steps up the healing a little bit further. You're avoiding a lot of the inflammatory foods. So advanced plan is you're doing no grains. You're trying to cut out all the grains. You're going on more of a grain-free diet. And then you're even watching the amount of sugar that you get from your fruit. So you're trying to limit your fruit consumption to berries, Granny Smith apples, grapefruits, lemons, limes, but you're not eating you're not eating a ton of things like bananas or grapes or things like that tend to be higher in sugar. But keep this in mind. It's always better to be eating, a God food like a fruit versus eating a, junky packaged or processed food or, some other type of cookie or something like that. So keep the big picture in mind there is that we just want to be eating real foods. But you may need to go for a period where you do no grains, grain-free. And all those recipes, all those meal plans, they are in the books. They're in your resources. We have them in the office. If you need those, get in and ask us about that. We can help you get on the right track with these eating plans. And then add gut healing foods in. So your gut healing foods are going to be your things like bone broth. It contains collagen and amino acids like proline and glycine that can help to heal your damaged cell walls. You can make your own bone broth. You can buy good quality bone broth, or we use our Max Living Pure Path bone broth protein. And so that's what I'll put in smoothies, or I'll make pudding out of that with sometimes avocados and dates, and I'll put that chocolate bone broth in there. It's super tasty. But that's a good healing thing for the gut. Fermented vegetables are very important. Things like sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented type foods, pickled foods, pickled vegetables. And you can buy those in the store. There's a big section of that, like at Kroger, in the refrigerated area, kind of right after, I think, like the butter or something like that. It's right in that corner. And there's a whole bunch of fermented foods like bubbies, sauerkraut, and pickles. There's Simple Truth, like for different types of fermented vegetables. So those are good. And that's where like cultures like, the Hunsans and things like that, sometimes they didn't have refrigerators. So how did they preserve their foods? They fermented them. And that fermentation creates this good bacteria that's really beneficial for our bodies. So adding in the fermented foods is important. Adding in omega-3s, these anti-inflammatory foods can settle down inflammation in your gut and in your body. So things like grass-fed beef, lamb, wild caught fish, and then coconut products are very good for your gut. They contain medium chain fatty acids that are very easy to digest compared to other fats. So coconut milk, full fat, coconut oil, coconut flakes unsweetened, like putting those in granola or snacking with it, that's great. And then healthy fats, you want to consume healthy fats in moderation, things like egg yolks. I think the whole egg's fine, but egg yolks are good. Avocados, ghee, coconut oil, those are good too. And then eating at least 1 to 2 servings of fruit daily is very good for leaky gut as well. Vegetables are good too, but fruit's good as well. So, and then we want to repair the gut. So repairing the gut, healing the inflammation, restoring that proper harmony, and helping to get rid of that dysbiosis. And then we also got to help heal some of that mucosal lining that helps with absorption of things as well. So there are herbs like licorice, not licorice, the candy that's, gross candy that's red dye, and who knows what else is in there. It tastes like wax, but this is the herb licorice, slippery elm, and marshmallow root. That's the same thing. That's not marshmallows. Marshmallow, mallow, the word actually means heal. So some of these herbs are very beneficial in healing gut lining and helping to heal this dysbiosis and soothe the bowels. So you do want to add in some of these good herbs to just help to heal your gut lining as well. And then digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes are naturally found in raw fruits and vegetables. But if you're eating a diet, or you have ate a diet that tends to be more protein, meat and dairy, or dairy and meat, you're eating a lot of that by itself doesn't really have digestive enzymes. So we can tend to be depleted in digestive enzymes, and that really does affect our body's ability to break down. A lot of people have a hard time metabolizing fats. So they need some digestive enzyme support to help them break down the protein and the fats in their diet. So living foods have enzymes, but when we eat more foods that aren't living foods, we're eating more highly, cooked foods or processed foods or packaged foods, and we're not, downing the raw fruits and vegetables, then we probably need some digestive enzyme support. And then fiber is another really good one. The recommended daily value of fiber is 30 grams a day. And to get 30 grams a day from your diet, that would mean that you would eat 5 servings of spinach, 5 servings of berries or something like apples, and then you'd have to eat nuts and seeds on top of that every day to get 30 grams of fiber. So a lot of people, we don't get that amount of fiber in our diet every day. We may have good days where we're eating a salad and we're eating fruits and vegetables, but then we may have days where it just doesn't happen. So if we're not getting enough fiber in our diet, then that can drive a lot of issues as well with our gut. So adding in something like the Pure Path fiber unflavored helps to really just get you that fiber that your body needs every day. So the Pure Path fiber, one thing on that, just to note, I was thinking, well, what's different with that than other fiber? The path fiber comes from 12 sources of like fruits and vegetables and different things. Unlike a lot of fiber, just has one ingredient, like the selenium husk, and that's about it. So it's a much more well-rounded, like kind of to mimic the fiber that should be coming out of your diet in that pure path fiber. Omega-3 fatty acids, supplementing that is also a good way to knock out inflammation to help heal the gut. And same thing, a lot of times our diet needs supplemented because we're not eating wild caught salmon a couple of days a week, or we're not snacking on walnuts and flax seeds and things like that. So supplementing omega-3s is important. And inflammatory genes in the body, when you consume omega-3s, it can help to knock down inflammatory genes. So I know in my own family, looking at my grandparents and parents, like we do have those, probably some of those inflammatory genes that tend to drive joint inflammation and arthritis and all these things. So, you know, for me to take omega-3s and make sure I'm getting that, well, that's good to help kind of turn off some of those inflammatory tendencies that could show up just in my genetics. And then we want to rebalance the gut bacteria. We need to inoculate. We need to get that good bacteria back in the bowel. And that comes from things like probiotics, high quality probiotics that are well-rounded and that have good shelf life. A lot of probiotics, you know, by the time you get them, they have little to no beneficial bacteria, and a lot of them aren't formulated to actually get that bacteria to the gut. A lot of that gets destroyed in your stomach with the acid that's in your stomach. So we do want to take some good high quality probiotics, is always a good thing to do, but then also get probiotics from your food like sauerkraut, kefir. You can get a lot of good probiotics from your diet as well too. And the study showed that when people added a probiotic, it really did help even with controlling their type 2 diabetes. Gut health connects to blood sugar, it connects to everything. So prebiotics, you want to have these in your diet as well. Prebiotics are the food that probiotics live on. So if you want good bacteria to thrive in your body, then you want to give it what it needs to survive. And these are going to be your prebiotics. So these are fruits and vegetables, can be different things like some of the whole grains and things like oats are fine. But mainly it's a lot of fruits and vegetables. These raw type foods provide great prebiotics for our gut. And one thing that we put together for patients just to kind of help navigate these gut issues is we did an advanced gut health bundle. And in that gut health bundle, it's all these key things that we need to help heal the gut. So it's the very good quality fiber that you can add into your smoothies or add it to your water. The probiotic 50B is a very well, rounded, some of the most researched probiotics are in there. And then the way they formulate it, it gets to your gut and actually starts working. And then it doesn't lose its potency as it sits on the shelf. It's formulated to actually keep that good stuff in there. Gut renewal powder, that is the powder that has all of the herbs like slippery elm, licorice, marshmallow root, L-glutamine. Has many, many things in there that are super good for healing the gut lining, and then digestive enzymes as well. So I recommend, if you are struggling with gut issues, you probably do need to be on some of these more advanced gut healing supplements for at least a few months to really help to knock out the bad bacterial overgrowth, help to heal the leaky gut, help repair a lot of that damage, and just to help you really digest and absorb food better. So that advanced gut health bundle is a really good thing. Or even if it's just like you've never really did a protocol to heal the gut, then you may want to give this a try and see how much better it helps other parts of your body as well. And then a minimal thing to do for the gut is we recommend do the probiotics. And then we have a supplement called Max GI, and it has thyme, oregano, and clove essential oil that help to knock out bad bacterial overgrowth. It has prebiotic, some enzymes, and then it has probiotic. So it has kind of everything that it needs in that one bottle. That Max GI is great. And for a lot of people, that'll do the trick and that'll really help. But for some, we may need more of those advanced things with some of that, things like the gut renewal powder and all those things as well too. So in our office, we have the Love My Guts recipe book. It's a lot of recipe books that recipes that feature gut healthy recipes. A lot of them have sauerkraut added to them. And so there's about, I think, 21 recipes that are in there. And if you purchase one of the gut health bundles, we give you that free gift of that Love My Guts recipe book. So I just encourage you, I know I went through a lot, but take action. Pick those two things that you know you need to work on, whether it's diet, whether it's mindset, whether it's, starting to avoid some of those bad food triggers. You got to work on taking action on one or two things, and then staying plugged into the events that are coming up in our office. And if you need help, if you've watched this webinar and you are not a patient in our office, you can, the little thing at the bottom, you can go on our website, you can register for a complimentary consultation and coming in and getting checked. And I just encourage you that we want to be our healthiest that we can. We want to have our best life possible. And life is too short to feel like junk. So we want to be just having our best health, and I want to help support you in that too. So thank you.